Welcome back to Bible Quizzes. We have another quiz today based on the book of Genesis. Let's get started. 1. Who was the first man created by God? Moses, Noah, Adam, or Abraham? Adam. Genesis 2:7. Then the Lord God formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature. 2. What was the first woman's name? Leah, Eve, Sarah, or Rebecca? Eve. Genesis 3:20. The man called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. 3. On which day did God create the sun, moon, and stars? First, fourth, third, or fifth? Fourth. Genesis 1:16 and 19. And God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And there was evening, and there was morning, the fourth day. 4. What was the forbidden fruit that Adam and Eve ate? Apple, pomegranate, fig, or unspecified? Unspecified. Genesis 3:6. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. 5. Who was the firstborn son of Adam and Eve? Cain, Seth, Abel, or Enosh? Cain. Genesis 4:1. Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I have gotten a man with the help of the Lord. 6. What did God place at the east of the Garden of Eden to guard it? An angel, a tree, a flaming sword, or a cherubim and a flaming sword? A cherubim and a flaming sword. Genesis 3:24. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed a cherubim and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. 7. Who was the man who walked with God and was taken up without dying? Noah, Enoch, Abraham, or Isaac? Enoch. Genesis 5:24. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. 8. How old was Noah when the floodwaters came upon the earth? 500 years, 700 years, 600 years, or 800 years? "600 years. Genesis 7:6. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came upon the earth. 9. What kind of wood did God command Noah to use to build the ark? Oak, pine, cedar, or gopher? Gopher. Genesis 6:14. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and out with pitch. 10. How long did the rain last during the flood? 7 days, 40 days, 30 days, or 100 days? "40 days. Genesis 7:12. And rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. 11. What sign did God give Noah to show his covenant with him? A dove, a star, a rainbow, or a tree? Oops. 11. What sign did God give Noah to show his covenant with him? A dove, a star, a rainbow, or a tree? A rainbow. Genesis 9:13. I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. 12. Who was Abraham's wife? Hagar, Rachel, Sarah, or Leah? Sarah. Genesis 11:29. And Abram and Nahor took wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai. 13. Who was the father of Ishmael? Isaac, Lot, Abraham, or Esau? Abraham. Genesis 16:15. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. 14. What was the name of Abraham's promised son with Sarah? Isaac, Joseph, Jacob, or Esau? Isaac. Genesis 21:3. Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore him Isaac. 15. How old was Sarah when she gave birth to Isaac? 75 years, 120 years, 100 years, or 90 years? "90 years." Genesis 17:17. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said to himself, "Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child?" 16. Who was Isaac's wife? Rachel, Dinah, Rebekah, or Leah? Rebekah. Genesis 24:67. Then Isaac brought her into the tent of Sarah his mother and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. 17. Who tricked Isaac into giving him the blessing meant for Esau? Jacob, Reuben, Joseph, or Simeon? Jacob. Genesis 27:19. Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." 18. What did Jacob dream of at Bethel? A ladder reaching to heaven. Genesis 28:12. And he dreamed, and behold, there was a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven, and behold, the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. 19. Who was Jacob's first wife? Leah, Rebekah, Rachel, or Bilhah? Leah. Genesis 29:23. But in the evening he took his daughter Leah and brought her to Jacob, and he went in to her. 20. What was the name of Jacob's youngest son? Joseph, Dan, Benjamin, or Asher? Benjamin. Genesis 35:18. And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. 21. Who sold Joseph into slavery? Egyptians, his brothers, Midianites, or his father? His brothers. Genesis 37:28. Then Midianite traders passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. They took Joseph to Egypt. 22. What special gift did Jacob give to his son Joseph? A crown, a coat, a sword, or a staff? A coat. Genesis 37:3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate robe for him. 23. How many sons did Jacob have? 10, 12, 11, or 13? 12. Genesis 35:22. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. 24. Who was Potiphar? The Pharaoh, Joseph's master, Joseph's father, or a priest? Joseph's master. Genesis 39:1. Now Joseph had been brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, had bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. 25. Why was Joseph thrown into prison? For stealing, for not paying taxes, for refusing to sin, or for lying? For refusing to sin. Genesis 39:12-20. But he left his garment in her hand and fled, and got out of the house, and his master took him and put him into the prison. 26. What did Joseph do for Pharaoh while in prison? He interpreted dreams, built a house, served him food, or guarded the prison. Interpreted dreams. Genesis 41:12-13. A young Hebrew was there with us, a servant of the captain of the guard. When we told him, he interpreted our dreams to us. 27. How many years of famine did Joseph predict from Pharaoh's dream? 3 years, 7 years, 5 years, or 12 years? "7 years. Genesis 41:29. There will come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, but after them there will arise 7 years of famine. 28. What was the name of Joseph's Egyptian wife? Asenath, Dinah, Zuleika, or Miriam? Asenath. Genesis 41:45. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphenath Paneah, and he gave him in marriage Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On. 29. What item did Joseph place in Benjamin's sack to test his brothers? A silver cup. Genesis 44:2. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest. 30. Who was Joseph's firstborn son? Ephraim, Benjamin, Manasseh, or Reuben? Manasseh. Genesis 41:51. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. 31. Who stayed behind with Jacob when the rest of his sons went to Egypt for food? Judah, Simeon, Levi, or Benjamin? Benjamin. Genesis 42:4. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him. 32. Who suggested that Joseph be sold into slavery instead of being killed? Reuben, Levi, Judah, or Simeon? Judah. Genesis 37:26-27. Then Judah said to his brothers, What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites. 33. What region in Egypt was given to Jacob and his family to settle in? Goshen, Thebes, Cairo, or Alexandria? Goshen. Genesis 47:6. The land of Egypt is before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best of the land. Let them settle in the land of Goshen. 34. Who buried Jacob after he died in Egypt? Pharaoh, his brothers, his sons, or his wife? His sons. Genesis 50:12-13. Thus his sons did for him as he had commanded them, for his sons carried him to the land of Canaan and buried him in the cave of the field at Machpelah. 35. How old was Joseph when he died? 90 years, 120 years, 110 years, or 140 years? $110. Genesis 50:26. So Joseph died being 110 years old. They embalmed him and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. 36. Who was the king of Salem who blessed Abraham? Lot, Pharaoh, Melchizedek, or Abimelech? Melchizedek. Genesis 14:18-19. And Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed him and said, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, possessor of heaven and earth. 37. How old was Abraham when Isaac was born? 75 years, 120 years, 100 years, or 150 years? "100 years. Genesis 21:5. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. 38. What was the sign of God's covenant with Abraham? A star, a rainbow, circumcision, or a cloud? Circumcision. Genesis 17:10-11. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your offspring after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. 39. What did Lot's wife turn into when she looked back at Sodom? A statue, a bird, a pillar of salt, or a rock? Pillar of salt. Genesis 19:26. But Lot's wife behind him looked back and she became a pillar of salt. 40. Who was the oldest person mentioned in the Bible? Noah, Abraham, Methuselah, or Adam? Methuselah. Genesis 5:27. Thus all the days of Methuselah were 969 years and he died. 41. What animal did God provide as a sacrifice in place of Isaac? A lamb, a ram, a goat, or a dove? A ram. Genesis 22:13. And Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram, caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. 42. What city did Lot escape to when Sodom was destroyed? Zoar, Haran, Bethel, or Salem? Zoar. Genesis 19:22. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. 43. Who was Abraham's second wife after Sarah died? Hagar, Dinah, Keturah, or Asenath? Keturah. Genesis 25:1. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. 44. Who were the twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah? Jacob and Esau, Ephraim and Manasseh, Joseph and Benjamin, or Simeon and Levi? Jacob and Esau. Genesis 25:24. When her days to give birth were completed, behold, there were twins in her womb. 45. What did Esau trade for a bowl of stew? His birthright. Genesis 25:33-34. Jacob said, Swear to me now. So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew, and he ate and drank and rose and went his way. 46. What did Jacob name the place where he wrestled with God? Bethel, Goshen, Hebron, or Peniel? Peniel. Genesis 32:30. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. 47. What did Rachel steal from her father Laban? Gold, clothes, livestock, or idols? Idols. Genesis 31:19. Laban had gone to shear the sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. 48. How many days and nights did it rain during the flood? 10, 30, 20, or 40? Genesis 7:12. And rain fell upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. 49. What was the name of the tower that the people built to reach heaven? Tower of Siloam, Tower of Shinar, Tower of Jericho, or Tower of Babel? Tower of Babel. Genesis 11:4. Then they said, Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth. 50. Who was the first murderer in the Bible? Lamech, Ham, Cain, or Esau? Cain. Genesis 4:8. Cain spoke to Abel his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. 51. What animal did Noah first send out to find dry land after the flood? A raven, a sparrow, a dove, or an eagle? A raven. Genesis 8:7. And he sent forth a raven, it went to and fro until the waters were dried up from the earth. 52. What food did Esau prepare for his father Isaac? Goat meat, fish, bread, or venison? Venison. Genesis 27:3. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. 53. What was the name of Joseph's youngest brother? Reuben, Simeon, Benjamin, or Levi? Benjamin. Genesis 35:18. And as her soul was departing, for she was dying, she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. 54. Where was Abraham buried? In the cave of Machpelah. Genesis 25:9. Isaac and Ishmael his sons buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ephron the son of Zohar the Hittite, east of Mamre. 55. What did the dove bring back to Noah to show the waters had receded? A flower, an olive leaf, a fig, or a twig? An olive leaf. Genesis 8:11. And the dove came back to him in the evening, and behold, in her mouth was a freshly plucked olive leaf. 56. Who was the father of Canaan? Shem, Ham, Abraham, or Japheth? Ham. Genesis 9:18. The sons of Noah who went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. 57. What did Jacob call the stone he set up as a pillar after his dream? Bethel, Hebron, Gilgal, or Shechem? Bethel. Genesis 28:19. He called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of the city was Luz at the first. 58. What was Abraham's original name? Abram, Abimelech, Isaac, or Eliezer? Abram, Genesis 17:5. No longer shall your name be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for I have made you the father of a multitude of nations. 59. What did God create on the first day? Sun, light, sky, or earth? Light. Genesis 1:3. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. 60. What was the first thing Noah did after leaving the ark? Built a house, offered a sacrifice, planted a vineyard, or prayed? Offered a sacrifice. Genesis 8:20. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took some of every clean animal and some of every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. 61. How long did Noah live after the flood? 50 years, 200 years, 150 years, or 350 years? "350 years. Genesis 9:28. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. 62. How old was Sarah when she gave birth to Isaac? 90, 75, 80, or 100? Genesis 17:17. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed and said to himself, "Shall a child be born to a man who is 100 years old? Shall Sarah, who is 90 years old, bear a child?" 63. Who was Laban? Isaac's son, Abraham's nephew, Rebekah's brother, or Jacob's uncle? Rebekah's brother. Genesis 24:29. Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban. Laban ran out toward the man to the spring. 64. How many of each clean animal did Noah bring into the ark? 2 pairs, 1 pair, 7 pairs, or 5? Seven pairs. Genesis 7:2. Take with you 7 pairs of all clean animals, the male and his mate, and a pair of the animals that are not clean, the male and his mate. 65. How long did Adam live? 700 years, 900 years, 800 years, or 930 years? 930 years. Genesis 5:5. Thus all the days that Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. 66. What was the name of the first garden where Adam and Eve lived? Gethsemane, Hebron, Eden, or Bethel? Eden. Genesis 2:8. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. 67. How was Eve created? From the dust of the earth, from water, from Adam's rib, or from the breath of life? From Adam's rib. Genesis 2:22. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man, he made it into a woman and brought her to the man. 68. What did God do on the 7th day of creation? Created man, rested, created animals, or created the sun? Rested. Genesis 2:2. And on the 7th day God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work that he had done. 69. What was the first sin committed by Adam and Eve? Lying, stealing, murder, or eating the forbidden fruit? Eating the forbidden fruit. Genesis 3:6. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate, and she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. 70. Who was the son of Adam born after Abel's death? Lamech, Enosh, Seth, or Japheth? Seth. Genesis 4:25, and Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and called his name Seth, for she said, God has appointed for me another offspring instead of Abel, for Cain killed him. 71. Who was known as a mighty hunter before the Lord? Lamech, Ham, Nimrod, or Esau? Nimrod. Genesis 10:9. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord, therefore it is said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. 72. Who was the father of Shem, Ham, and Japheth? Abraham, Noah, Lamech, or Enoch? Noah. Genesis 5:32. After Noah was 500 years old, Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. 73. How many dreams did Joseph have that foretold his future rise to power? 1, 3, 2, or 4? Two. Genesis 37:9. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. 74. What did Joseph's brother do to deceive their father about Joseph's disappearance? They lied, they showed him Joseph's bloody robe, they claimed Joseph ran away, or they said Joseph went to Egypt. They showed him Joseph's bloody robe. Genesis 37:31-32. Then they took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood. And they sent the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, This we have found. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not. 75. How many years of famine did Pharaoh dream about in Joseph's interpretation? 3, 5, 4, or 7? 7. Genesis 41:30. But after them there will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land. 76. Who gave a blessing to Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh? Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, or Judah? Jacob. Genesis 48:14. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, crossing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. 77. Where did Joseph request his bones to be taken when the Israelites left Egypt? Canaan, Egypt, Ur, or Haran? Canaan. Genesis 50:25. Then Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here. 78. Who did Jacob say would be a donkey of a man? Judah, Naphtali, Issachar, or Ishmael? Issachar. Genesis 49:14. Issachar is a strong donkey crouching between the sheepfolds. 79. Who was the first man to build a city in the Bible? Noah, Enoch, Cain, or Lamech? Cain. Genesis 4:17. Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. When he built a city, he called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. 80. How many years did Methuselah live, making him the longest living person in the Bible? 950 years, 969 years, 800 years, or 990 years? 969 years. Genesis 5:27. Thus all the days of Methuselah were 969 years and he died. And that's all our questions today. Let us know how you did down below and share it with your friends and family to compare your scores. And we'll see you in the next one.